Your soul's purpose for your journey is to detach from your ego and not your twin flame. In previous videos, I'd spoken about starving the ego to feed the soul in order to become more present and to feel more, to think less, to release any stored emotions that is in your field. The art of detachment is slightly different. This is more action based. And in this video, I'm going to share with you how you can get started with the detachment process from your ego mind. And in turn, this will allow the laws of physics to do its work and for you to experience some type of a reunion with your twin in the future. So hi, my name is Sean. I'm a transcendency coach. My purpose here is to help people who are stuck on the journey with the obsessive thinking and help them to move away from this, transcend the mind, and to get onto their ascension path. So, at some stage along your journey, you will realize that you're unable to detach from your twin. Even if you have surrendered to the fact that this is your spiritual awakening journey and not a romantic pursuit per se. And also you may have accepted the fact that there's potentially you will never experience a physical reunion with the twin, or even you may be at the stage where you no longer want this experience any longer. However, you're still finding yourself stuck with the conditioning, the desires, and the obsessive thinking with this person, which doesn't make sense since you have got to the point of surrender, which is quite a difficult place to get to. But I can assure you this is absolutely correct. You cannot detach from the twin. It's impossible. This would be like detaching from yourself. You can't detach from yourself or your own soul. So this is something that is not achievable. You cannot detach from the twin. And in fact, you're going to think about the twin in some degree every day for the rest of your existence, more than likely. However, what you can do is you can absolutely detach from your ego mind. And why you would detach from the ego mind? Because here it's the ego who is sourcing out the twin for energy, and it's creating the desires and the stories in order to keep feeding itself with this energy. So the detachment has to take place at the level of the ego. And also I must say, I find that a lot of coaches don't make this clear, that you will hear them all say online, you must detach and let go of your twin. In fact, you can't. It's not the twin, it's the ego who you need to detach from. And I feel that this keeps people stuck, like myself, for many years, who are trying to achieve this and then are unable to do so and need to reach out then for help in order to get on the correct path. So what you can do in order to start the detachment process? Well, the very first and the most important thing that you can do is you need to stop using the identity or the references of twin flames, and I would also even add a spiritual awakening. Now, I learned this actually from working with a coach who was a non-twin flame coach. He was a spiritual awakening coach online who taught me how to connect to my spirit guides. So when I established a connection, I should not be too surprised. I was quite eager to find out if this person was my twin flame. So when I asked the question, is this person my twin flame? The answer was always no. Also, when I asked, am I on a spiritual awakening journey? The answer again was always no. It was not till much later when I reworded the question, I asked, does this person contain or share the same soul as myself? And the answer was yes. Am I on an ascension path, and am I expanding my consciousness? And again, the answer was yes. And this taught me then that the labels of twin flames and spiritual awakening are not actually valid. And this makes sense with what you'll hear a lot of coaches online say, that you need to stop looking at twin flame videos, you need to stop reading about twin flames, and you need to stop thinking or speaking about twin flames and spiritual awakening. And this is absolutely correct, because this is keeping the attachment with the ego, because the ego loves identities. It loves the identity of a spiritual awakening, and it loves the identity of the twin flame. Every time it sees the twin, this is my twin flame, it's an attachment. So when you stop to use these terms and references, you have begun the detachment process from the ego. Now, in my case, what I'm going to do to facilitate this is I am no longer going to put twin flames in any of the titles of the videos that I'm for this one or any forthcoming videos. And also, I am no longer going to use the term twin flames or spiritual awakens where I can help it. What I will use instead of twin flames will be something like the person who awakens you or your other soul. Be no fixed description. It'll just be whatever comes to me at the moment, because I do not want to attach a label to this person. I originally called the channel the Tour de Twin Flames, but I quickly changed it because I knew it was giving the wrong message, and I wanted to put the twin flames in the titles of the first couple of videos in order to build up the number of subscribers, which I was successful to do so, and I thank you to everyone who has subscribed to the channel. But I will no longer be using these terms, because these terms are in fact keeping you attached. So again, the first thing you need to do is you need to detach from the label, in particular twin flame. Once you have started to do this, you have begun your detachment process. And actually what you're going to find is it's not as easy as it sounds. You think, well, that's okay, I can do that, no problem. You will notice your ego is going to come in. Hey, let's watch one twin flame video. Let's look up something about twin flames. Let's talk about twin flames. It's not as easy as it may sound. It took me a number of weeks to really get into the detachment of the term twin flames. It was definitely not as simple as I thought it was going to be when I started off. So keep that in mind. But this is the most critical step that you're going to take on your detachment process. The next thing you can do, which is super important and super powerful and really speeds up the process, is you can start to manifest the version of yourself who is no longer attached to your ego. Now, I think back in the early 2000s, there was a movie called How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days with Matthew McConaughey and Kate Hudson. It's quite funny, quite a good film, I must say. But in this film, they play a card game called Bullshit. So they had to figure out who was lying during the game. And this is a game that you can play again with your own ego, because all the stories, in particular the ones for the future, are all bullshit, because you cannot manifest anything got to do with your twin flame. It simply won't work. And if you have, it's not your twin flame, it's your soulmate. You cannot manifest anything about them. It's impossible. And I'm sure most people will have tried to manifest back in the person who has triggered their spiritual awakening, and you'll figure out it just simply does not work. And this is simple rules, because you're manifesting actually yourself. You can't do that. You can manifest things for yourself, but you can't manifest yourself back in, or manifest experiences with yourself. You can manifest things as yourself, but not with yourself. So that's why it doesn't work. But what you can absolutely do is you can manifest the version of yourself that is not attached to the ego. And how you can do this, or how I do this on a daily basis, is I in particular would do this at night time before I was going to bed, for about 5 to 10 minutes, sitting up straight, not lying down. It doesn't work. You need to be sitting up straight in a quiet place, centered, where you're conscious and you're feeling into your body. And from here, just for the next day, I'm not going any further than that, because you'll have a good idea what you have on the next day. I am manifesting the version of myself that is no longer attached to the ego. So how I'm going to wake up nice and calmly, feel into the body, maybe go to the toilet, go drink some water, go out, take a nice light stretch, get some fresh air, some sunlight, breathe in some deep breaths, and just feel centered and being and connected to the universe. And this will continue on the day, how I go to work, how I feel. I just feel super slow. Everything's going slow motion. I just feel centered. I feel magnetic. I feel people coming towards me to say hello. I feel lots of good energies, and I feel radiant almost. And it's very a feeling base, how I would feel, just feel this presence about me all day long. And I would continue like this throughout the day. And I would also include things like having a Kundalini experience. How would it feel if I felt the Kundalini coming up through my back when I'm meditating. What I was going to eat is super important. I visualize what my plates are going to look like. They're all healthy, they're good for my body, they're expanding my frequency. And also I would include things like feeling a bit of a trigger come in place, maybe with the twin, for example, and then instead of anything popping up, I'd just sink in deep into the heart center and feel this absolute, my own very being, instead of any stories coming up, and just have this feeling of just being whole, complete, and one. And this is a super, super powerful manifestation, because it's quite easy to do it, and you're really basing on your feeling. And what I started to notice was, after about the 10-day mark, I started to have a lot of these experiences where, for example, I would have Kundalini experiences. When I went into nature, I could feel energy coming up through me. When I connect, even to put my hands on trees, I would feel the energy going through my body. I would manifest if some sort of a trigger. I would just automatically sit into myself, and I would just feel connected with everything, everyone, and feel that I am no longer attached to anything or any person, and I'm just wholeness and complete. And the first couple of days of it is not that easy to do. It takes a little bit of practice to get into it. And of course, be mindful, your ego is going to come in and tell you it's not working, and then you can be sure it actually is working. But the longer I'd done it, and the longer, once I got to that 10-day period, I really started to embody the presence of being detached from the ego. And the universe started to reflect this to me in many, many ways. And the more I started to do it, the more the manifestations will come true, and the more and more I detach from the ego. So this is a super powerful practice that I would highly recommend everybody to do. It only takes maybe 10 minutes a day, and it'll really, really speed up the detachment from your ego. So if anyone would like any additional help with the transcending the mind or the manifestations, I will put my link to the Calendly in the bio, and feel free to leave any comments, questions, or concerns in the comment section below. I look forward from hearing you, and thanks again for everyone who subscribed, as I mentioned earlier. And from this point forward, then, I am no longer going to be using any of the terms that I discussed, and I'll help people with the detachment process. So thank you again, and have a great day.